Transgender insanity, and there I am.
Ah yes, transgender insanity and Vaush. They go hand in hand. Bread and butter. In this video, we're going to be talking about Vaush, who was commenting on a video about a priest when someone responded, and then Vaush responded, and now I'm responding. That sounds complicated, but I don't think it will be. Just don't be alarmed if you see two Vaushes on the screen. I know, two Vaushes. The dream come true.
And you think of that, wait a second, that's how you know that your little boy is actually a girl?
No, the only way you know is if your little boy says so.
And my little boy says he's Spider-Man, but that doesn't make it.
Wow, very smart. Very high IQ response. Yes, excellent. Except Spider-Man is a character in a comic book, and gender is an identity.
Obviously, Vaush understands the point, but he's obfuscating. He's using Spider-Man as a hyperbolic example to demonstrate that kids say things that aren't true. Kids, being humans that haven't fully developed, their brains haven't fully developed, say a lot of crazy things that don't make sense. The point is, we shouldn't trust everything they say. Whether they say they're Spider-Man, they say they're the opposite gender, or whatever it may be.
So in order to determine an element of a person's identity, there's no empirical measure for it. You would have to, ask them. It's possible that they could lie, but a person could lie about their feelings and thoughts in all sorts of ways that no person could, objectively determine.
Why use the word lying? They don't have to be lying. They're children. It's that they don't know any better. Even as they become more coherent, as they approach adolescence, their brains aren't fully developed, so they may just grow out of whatever they're saying.
How do you objectively determine what a person's favorite food is without just relying on what they tell you?
Again, the problem being is that the people that we're talking about do not have fully developed brains. Allow me to share a story to demonstrate. I remember, as a kid, I used to ask for a Homer Simpson bin for Christmas. I remember you would throw something in the bin and it would trigger a voice line. I thought that's what I wanted. And if my parents had blindly followed what I said I wanted, they would have bought it for me. But thank God, my parents were more intelligent than I was as a child. They realized that bins aren't as fun as they sound. What was I going to do on Christmas morning? Just constantly throwing things in the bin to hear the voice lines? That would get old pretty fast. As a kid, I thought it's what I wanted. But thankfully, my parents knew better than me.
It's horrifying that children are being abused in this way, and Vaush is just wrong.
Abuse? What? Wait, abuse? Asked what their gender identity is? Damn, this must be pretty harmful. Coming from a Catholic, too. I mean, you guys know all... What with you guys being the expert on child abuse and all.
Really, Vaush, you're still doing shtick like that after you got caught with CP on your computer. Okay, we're giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying that you didn't know, but I thought you'd be a bit more tactful going forward. But yeah, a lot of the gender affirmation that has been going on could be deemed abusive, like double mastectomies that have been performed on 13-year-old girls. Obviously, just asking a child their gender identity wouldn't be qualified as abuse. But let's not pretend that's all that's happening with the children today.
A child will often know that they are transgender from the moment that they have any ability to express themselves. And
yeah, this person's full of shit. How could you possibly know that about someone based on, the way a toddler babbles? Yeah, no, it's obviously wrong.
He says you can't know that about someone based on their babbling. But I thought you said you can't know that about someone, full stop. You have to trust what they tell you or what they express to you. Obviously, Vaush doesn't want to acknowledge that we just can't trust what the children say because they're children. Their brains aren't fully developed.
Overeager statements. I mean, if it was taken down, wouldn't that be an indication of fault from Boston Children's Hospital?
I'm guessing it was due to the immense pushback they would have received for saying something completely insane. But the fact that they felt so emboldened to create and release something this crazy shows how far this movement has gone.
I would say you could get signs, right? For instance, a lot of people who come out as gay when they're 20 or something, a lot of people in their lives will look back on their life and say, I could tell, right?
And this is a very valid and important point from Vaush. If your little girl tells you that she's a boy, you shouldn't blithely discard it. You should take note of it, because it could mean something. Just maybe hold out on the double mastectomy for a couple of years.
We have parents who tell us that their kids, they knew from the minute they were born practically.
So that's obviously a hyperbolic statement, which is why she said it that way. But yeah, obviously you can't tell that from the minute. You could no more tell the gender of an infant from the moment of birth than you could tell what food it will like or what clothing it'll like or whatever, you know?
Aha, but that's where you're wrong, Vaush. Because I have a baby, and when she was 7 months old, she kept trying to reach for my pizza while I was eating it. So from that day on, I stopped with the baby formula and just fed her pizza. And now she's 200 pounds.
In fact, a 2024 study from the Netherlands that followed transgender youth over the course of 15 years showed that only 2% of teens increased in gender dysphoria.
3 developmental trajectories of gender non-contentedness were identified. No gender non-contentedness, 78%, so people who are never non-contented with their gender. Decreasing gender non-contentedness, 19%, and increasing gender non-contentedness, 2%. Wouldn't this be an indication not only that 2% of the population is transgender, but what's more, they're transgender from 11 onward?
Why would that be the key takeaway from this study? If 19% will grow out of their gender dysphoria and only 2% will continue it, that indicates that it's insane to administer treatment that's experimental or irreversible when they're more likely by far to grow out of this dysphoria.
Wait, doesn't this prove the opposite of your point? Your argument is that the only reason that people transition is due to social pressure too, which, okay, yeah, there's so much social pressure to do that. That's so true. You get a lot of these, though. Like, people very aggressively misinterpret studies.
Vaush didn't read the study, and that's the problem with doing these things live. But it does say, later on, that it was found that children who socially transitioned in early childhood were more likely to have persisted feelings of gender dysphoria. So as far as I can tell, his claim is correct. So knowing that even socially transitioning is more likely to persist their feelings of gender dysphoria, and the probability is that they will resolve their gender dysphoria as they grow up. Why would you undergo any transition with your child? And according to Polly Carmichael speaking at a conference on gender, we're socially transitioning children as young as 3 or 4.
So we've seen very, very young people, who have fully socially transitioned, age 3 or 4.
And by the way, when she's saying this, she thinks it's a good thing. Let's take a look back at an older clip from Vaush. This is about a year ago. Keeping in mind what we now know, that most kids will grow out of this dysphoria.
Meaning that because you get precocious puberty, your brain development accelerates because you're getting the puberty. But then when you take puberty blockers, you regress back to the mean, which is where you should be at that age, and it doesn't have any long-term effect on your brain development. Again, there was a study on this. Just lying publicly, it's fine.
As I pointed out in my video debunking Kyle Kalinske, it's interesting to look at the NHS's website on puberty blockers and how it's changed over time. Originally, they claimed, as Vaush did, that it was 100% reversible, that it didn't affect brain development. Then, they explicitly said that although the treatment is physically reversible, it is not known what the psychological effects may be, completely contradicting Vaush. And now, if you go to the website, they just say that puberty blockers are not available to children and young people because there's not enough evidence of safety and clinical effectiveness. So everything the skeptics were saying is true, that there wasn't enough evidence, that children are likely to grow out of their dysphoria. And I have to bring it back to that debate between Sitch and Adam, because I think it beautifully encapsulates the contention between the left and the right.
If it turns out, as you said, Kyle, like 10 years from now, trans regret rate explodes.
Right. I don't think that'll happen. I'm saying that's what you're saying will happen,
right.
And we'll find out if it does. Right. And
Sure.
basically, look, at the end of the day, I think that'll more or less settle the debate, right? Like among reasonable people, they go, okay, well, yeah, so
a lot of
either it didn't happen
casualties.
I can't tell you how much I love Adam for pointing this out. A lot of casualties indeed. It's okay, NHS, that you're saying that there's not enough evidence of safety and clinical effectiveness. But why are you saying that now, after years of administrating this treatment? Why did the GIDS clinic in England refer young people as young as 10 or 11 for puberty blockers without waiting to see whether their own data supported it? Why were experts dismissed as transphobes instead of listening to their concerns? That just seems to be the attitude of the left. Transition the kids, change their lives forever, and look for the evidence later. It doesn't matter. Who cares about the consequences? I'd like to play another clip from Vaush from that same video. And this one is infuriating.
Kat Kattinson. This is a TERF website, I think. Detransitioner loses natural singing voice after gender-affirming care. Oh no, did nobody tell you that testosterone lowers your voice? Did nobody tell you that? You really gonna tell me that nobody told you that testosterone will lower your voice naturally?
Yeah, I'm sure her 30-minute phone call where her psychological history did not come up before getting testosterone was very thorough. Well, 30 minutes seems pretty good relative to the 10 minutes that a 9-year-old got before getting puberty blockers. As Sitch of Sitch and Adam said, while all this is happening to trans children without evidence, are we not going to sit back one day and ask,
Why did we allow this to happen?
I actually do really want that bin though.